Hello friends. So today I've got lots of plans for the Jackson garden. The weather is just right for planting out cool weather crops, and it is my favorite time of year to work in the garden because I really enjoy gardening in cool weather. Oh, there's some elderflower from our last year's harvest. So our beds were left in pretty bad shape in the fall, but I actually don't mind because all the dead debris kind of works as a cover on the beds, and I'll be weeding and mulching and sowing as I go along. But before I leave the house, I'm making myself a little cup of herbal tea, and of course, I've got to add my honey. You might have heard of the term phenology, something that you've even used yourself and not realized. Have you ever looked up and seen Canadian geese flying overhead and thought, oh, winter is coming? You've just used phenology. A lot of things that happen in nature happen because of very slight changes in temperature. Because when things like forsythia or daffodils begin to bloom, it's a signal of what the earth temperature is. And because that's what tells those flowers it's time to bloom. And so seeing them bloom gives us a little heads up that the temperature of the soil is about right for planting certain cold crops. Another way that you could choose to get the same information is by using a soil thermometer. I'm just gonna stick this buddy in here, and while I wait for it to have a chance to read the temperature, it's already going down. I'm gonna weed this bed because I'm gonna be planting some more cool weather crops. So we practice no-dig gardening, which is pretty much what it sounds like. We don't till our soil, and the way that we rejuvenate the soil every season is by adding a layer of compost as a mulch to the surface. So before I add that layer of compost, obviously I want to get rid of any of the weeds that are growing in the bed, as well as leaves and little bits of mulch from our path and things like that, and just get it all nice and cleared up. Also leaving the trellising here. Last year there were tomatoes in this bed, and I think probably I'll do some peas and beans here. It is okay to plant the same crop in beds multiple times. Many no-dig gardeners have found no issue with growing the same crops in the same place because of the composting method. Rewards! All right, bed is weeded, and let's have a look at our temperature here. Around 45 degrees, which is a good temperature for planting your cool weather crops. So we're going to top this up with some compost and then sow some seed. Unfortunately, we aren't able to make enough compost for ourselves at this point, so we do get delivery of compost, and this is from last year. Still plenty to get this year started. I hope eventually that we'll be able to make enough compost of our own, but in the meantime, sourcing really high quality compost that hasn't been contaminated with some of the common pesticides, herbicides that unfortunately are often found on grass and hay, so horse manure is a particular concern. I'm gonna plant some broccoli, 2 kinds of broccoli, in this freshly mulched bed. True confessions, I'm a sloppy gardener. I don't really take a lot of time to measure, and I tend to overseed if I'm seeding because I know that I can always pull out the extras and eat them as sprouts. And of course, last but definitely not least, water them in good.